like growing up, right? When you were younger
Yeah.
and you were into film, and did you ever do any kind of theater or anything like that?
I did kind of on a very kind of low level in terms of like I went to camp and there would be like a production of like I don't know Grease or something, and I would be in
Yeah.
the chorus line or something like that. But I never like went hard at the theater stuff.
So when like at what point did the in your life, right? Like when did the music come into play? How did you discover that you were like a rock vocalist?
Yeah, yeah. So I think my first experience with like being aware of a band or like branding of a band was probably like the Grateful Dead, because I would see my sister wearing, their stuff with the bear and the
Yeah,
skull,
yeah.
and I was like, that's kind of badass. But the band that like got me into like music and like, oh my God, that's so cool, was watching MTV and seeing bands like Nirvana,
Yeah.
Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. Like to me, like that golden age of rock and roll. Like when I was about 7 or 8, and I was always into it very young, and I was the kid at school that was like telling my friends what to listen to, and like you got to check these bands out. So there is a video of me playing with my band, and I'm talking like we're like 10, and we
Oh,
played Dive by Nirvana and
sick.
Tomorrow by Silverchair. And I'll dig up the video at some point, but like it was definitely funny to see little kind of like grunge looking Seattle guys that, at 8 years old. And I remember we got in a lot of trouble for playing certain songs.
Dude, that's sick, man. That's
Yeah. How about
so,
you?
oh, well, I got one more question. So where you're at in your life and in your career, is this what you dreamed of when you were younger? Was this experience in that you're having now, is it what you were dreaming of when you were a kid?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like I'm so lucky to be able to do this kind of stuff. And it's like twofold. I always dreamed of being a rock musician that people really embraced, and that kind of that moment that you share with the audience, where everyone is feeling it. And the fact that I get to live that almost every night in non-COVID times is so cool. And the second fold is I always wanted to be in the movies. I always loved rather, the Friday the 13th, the Halloweens, and getting to be able to do that in videos and give our own spin on that, and play those characters is like it's like a fantasy camp. And I keep saying it. I owe it all to our loyal Psycho fans, because they let me trick or treat into my 30s, and that's how I usually put it.
Sick, dude. Or have you directed any of your videos, like fully just from the bottom to the top?
Never directed, but I'm always very involved in the writing of the videos.
Yeah.
I love putting together dialogue and collaborating with different directors and writers, and I'd like to eventually dabble in that stuff. But man, I see these directors like the guy that did our last one, American Psycho, Jensen, brilliant guy. I'm like, so cool. And it's like, how is
Yeah.
this guy doing that? I don't think he blinked for like 15 hours straight. And I'm like, I don't know if I can handle that. I think I'd rather be the actor.
It seems like you have such a vision that it's like you could direct. I feel like you just have that thing in you. If you wanted to, you could do that. You
Well, I
should. You should
appreciate
give
that,
it a
man.
shot one day.
I'll give it a shot, man. But on set, I always enjoy that, coming up with shots, or suggesting things. And I'm lucky that I get to work with people who are so talented, and that, take my ideas, and sometimes they kind of thrive off them. But what are the bands, I've always wanted to ask you, what are the bands that got you into wanting to be a rock vocalist?
Oh man. So in the early, I got a funny story about how I became a singer. So in the early years, I started on drums, and I was listening to same Nirvana. I was a big fan of Faith No More. Um, Early on, I loved Poison and Motley Crue, like hair metal. And then, as time evolved, I got into grunge and punk. I was listening to Social Distortion and Fugazi, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mr. Bungle was another one of my favorites. But I got drums. I started playing drums, and then I met Dave Buckner. He was one of the founding members of Papa Roach. He was a drummer as well, and we're like, dude, let's just put our drum sets together and just have one big drum set, and I'll come over to your house and we'll just take turns jamming and having fun. Well, he was a better drummer than I was, right? And so I was like, well, I mean, I want to jam, so I'll just. I had a job. I earned some money. I went and bought a bass guitar, so I started playing bass. And I had it in the back of my truck one day, and somebody broke into my truck and stole my bass. And I'm just like, ah. And I'm like, hey, what do we do? Like, what do I got to do, man? I ain't got no money. And he's like, dude, just be a singer, bro. It's free. And so I was just like, all right, fuck it, let's go. And it was just kind of on that whimsical moment where I was just like, all right, I'll be the singer. And then we met this other kid that played bass. And it just kind of, it developed from there. Because early on in my singing, I was like trying to sound like Mike Patton meets like a death metal singer. I was like, it was like funk punk, deathcore screaming with like, it was very experimental style in the beginning. And then I got into rap, and that's when, and then I started to get into melody, and then I discovered melody, and that's when I started to take off as a vocalist. So it took me a long time. I had a lot of embarrassing recordings, in the process of that. As I look back at like the history of Papa Roach, but Papa Roach is my first band I've ever been in, And
that's crazy, man.
Here I am, like 20 some odd years later, and I still sing for Papa Roach. It's pretty
That's
wild.
Amazing, man. That's same with me. This is the only band I've ever been in other than like cover bands. I don't count, but this is the first band that I started. And that's so amazing that sort of like manifest destiny, that whimsical thing you're talking about. Like whoever stole your bass that day, who knows like what would happen if you didn't steal the bass. Thank God. Where is that guy? Let's buy him a beer. He's not dead.
Let me buy him a keg. Fuck.
Seriously,
for real.
right?
It changed the course of my life.
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, seeing the evolution of your vocal style from all the way back to Infest to now, and seeing the marriage, the eloquent marriage you do of the rapping, of the singing, of the shouting, I gotta tell you, you are one of the best in the game, hands down. And hearing you on a track like the Hollywood Undead one we did, Heart of a Champion, like you steal the show, man. That bridge where you're going between the melody and you're rapping, and you've got the badass lyrics, and where it drops out, like you really are a master of your craft, and I respect the hell out of you.
So like, as we've been locked up for a while, right? Like life's starting to look good, and we're starting to like get back to things, but to rewind a little bit, as we were locked up, how were you entertaining yourself other than, obviously recording music and stuff like that? Is there any kind of new music that you're feeling, or film that that you were really getting into, or what was keeping the creative juices flowing you outside of just recording music?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, on the film side, I quickly kind of over the years, not quickly, just gotten bored a bit with Netflix, like the programming, like the movies that they have available. It's just like they're not killing the game anymore. And I started to delve into the world of Shudder, Shudder. And Shudder is basically the Netflix of horror. And if you're out there,
tell me about this.
And you don't have it, you got to get it. They have original programming, and they have just really cool selection of all these B horror movies, all these slasher movies, and some of them I've just never even heard of or seen. And I've just been going hard at that. They have this original programming. I don't know if you remember from back in the day on TNT, and before that on the Movie Channel, I believe there was this guy named Joe Bob Briggs, and he was this kind of guy that he wore the cowboy boots, and he spoke with a Texan accent, and he hosted these shows late night on TNT called Monster Vision, where they talk about the movies. Like they'll play the movies, and then in between he'll give you like these obscure facts, and he kind of like an idol of mine. And they brought him to Shudder now, so he's got a show called The Last Drive-In. And it's just like a celebration of all things horror. And it sort of brings me back to the good old days before streaming was so easy. And so really that's what I've been diving into for inspiration. As bad as the pandemic was and as tragic as it was, it did give me a lot of time to work on the new record. And two of the guys who didn't live in California moved out here to Echo Park, and man, we just hit it hard, like 3 days a week, 4 days a week, writing stuff, and we made the best of it, man. And I'm super excited to get this record out in October, my friend.
Yeah, dude. What do you have the release date? The proper release date?
Yeah, it is coming out October 15th via Fearless Records, and it's cool because as a horror fan, as a franchise fan, I've always loved the idea of sequels, you know. And I remember being so excited, like when Scream came out and I saw that in the theater, I was like, where's the Scream 2? Scream 2 is coming out. Yeah. So I wanted to give our fans that same feeling of like, man, there's a second one. Oh my God, what are they going to do? So it's just an exciting thing. And I'm really stoked to take that world of movies and put it into the music world and sort of cross-pollinate there.
That's so sick, man. Hence the genius of Spencer. For real, man.
Stop it.
I love it, dude.
Thank you, man.
Seriously, man. I'm just impressed. It's like I said it earlier, I'll say it again. It's like it's inspiring for a dude like me who's been around in the game to see somebody else and go, "Oh, they got it. They got it. Like they got that thing." You know what I'm saying? It's like there's not too many bands out there. There's bands out there that write great music, but it's like, what else is there? What's the hook that really gives this thing something that you can dig in deeper? And I think it takes levels of creativity. And, you know, it's got me thinking in, you know, what we do with Papa Roach. Well, how do we add other levels to what we're doing? You know, is it the way that we're building content for our YouTube page? And how are we engaging with, you know, our fans in different ways other than just, here's our song, here's our video, that's it. You know what I mean? And I dig the depth of what you're doing, dude. It's freaking inspiring, man. And I got to tell you, dude, I think this is going to be a big record for you. I mean, from what I've heard, you know, that you've created, and working with Drew Folk he's one of the great rock producers right now. One of the great producers, period. He's in all kinds of genres. I mean, he's doing hip hop, he's doing metal, he's doing hardcore, he's doing pop. It's like, he's one of those guys that just, I think he really gets what you're trying to do, and you guys have just created something that's just monstrous.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and another tip of the hat to you, because, you know, as someone who's been around the block, your stature, where Papa Roach, the level that you've gotten to, and it's like you're not too cool for school. You're into playing with the younger bands and doing guest spots, and I think that that kind of mindset contributes to you guys just continuing to be this force. And I think that, you know, tip the hat to you for not being too cool for school and just being a down-to-earth badass guy. And everyone I talk to, I say, that guy, Jacoby, one of the nicest guys, not only I've met in the business, but just in general. And I really appreciate you being so cool to us. And it makes me want to do the same for younger bands on the way up. You know, as we progress too, because that's what it's about. You know,
we got
no room for dickheads.
When we first came out, Korn took us out on tour, and they were just so gracious to us. They were just like, "Yo, kids, like they called us Grasshopper. They're like, "Yo, Grasshopper, check it out. We'll teach you how to do this." And I was like, "All right, cool, this is sick. Like, I love Korn, and they're telling me that they're going to teach me the ways." And they took us out on tour, man, and they were like, "You turn the system up as loud as you want. You can be anywhere on the stage. All the lights, do your thing." Like, and I think that for me, it's like, I try to remain as humble as possible, but also teachable. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like when I think I got it figured out, that's when it's over. That's when the career's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, don't you feel like you got something to prove every time you write a track? It's like, it's like, bam, here's my next, like, just mega banger. You know, it's like, I guess we live and die by the art that we create. And if it's not successful, it's like you feel the hit, you know? And so it's I think staying teachable is a big part of that for me in this creative space. And you know, because we've taken our lumps, boy. We've had some tough times in our career, but you know, we just soldier on, my brother. We cockroaches. They can't get rid of us, dude. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
As soon as you thought you got rid of us, guess who's creeping and crawling out the cuts and the crevices?
That's right. You guys don't scatter when the lights go on.
Oh, hell no, dude. We infest.
Fuck shit up. Infest, baby.
I love it,
I love
man.
that. And I love to hear that story about Korn, too. It's so cool to know that they are so cool, such cool guys, because I've always loved Korn, too, and looked up to them and watched their DVDs, VHS. Who Are They Now? I remember when they were working on Life is Peachy with Ross Robinson. So that's so cool to know that they're awesome dudes too.
Oh yeah, dude. But hey, man, it's been good hanging with you, bro. And to all the fans out there, fucking y'all are gonna love this next record. You're gonna be loving this shit Ice Nine's dropping on you. So Spence, dude, I love you, bro. Have a fucking good
I love you too, man.
All right, man.
There we go, baby. Take it easy, my man. Thanks so much.